go, go, and show what good friends we can be. Let's go, 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 and we'll start a commotion. Set friendship in motion. Let's set friendship in motion. Let's set friendship in motion.
A friendly gesture. One afternoon, Rebecca was in Knapford Yard filling up with water. Signal work had delayed her next train, and she was savoring the extra time to rest. As she enjoyed her long drink, she heard an unfamiliar whistle in the distance. A purple tank engine pulled into view, goods train in tow. "Hello there," called Rebecca. The engine looked over. "Oh, hello. The engine paused. "I'm sorry, I don't think I've met you before." "That's quite all right," Rebecca said warmly. "My name's Rebecca." "Nice to meet you, Rebecca," smiled the engine. "My name is Ryan. I'm the goods engine on the Harwick branch." "I can see that." Rebecca looked back at the long line of trucks Ryan had brought in, amazed at how many there were. "Did you have any trouble bringing them down here?" "Not at all," said Ryan. "I've actually never had any sort of trouble with trucks. I suppose I've just been lucky." "Luck? That's silly," giggled Rebecca. "I think it's because you're a talented engine who knows how to handle his trucks. I can think of a lot of engines who would love to be as talented as you. I know I do." Ryan's cheeks warmed at the praise. "Oh, well, Thank you, Rebecca. That's lovely of you to say," he stammered. "It's what I do," smiled Rebecca, along with pulling commuter trains and the occasional goods train. "I hope those passengers don't give you too much trouble," said Ryan. "Daisy says they can be just as bad as trucks." "Oh, the trucks don't give me trouble anymore," replied Rebecca, and she recounted to Ryan the tale of how she'd accidentally destroyed a truck. "Oh my," chuckled Ryan. "Oliver's told me about a time he did something quite similar, but I never thought it would happen again." "Neither did I," laughed Rebecca. Just then, Rebecca's driver returned. "Signal's still broken," he sighed. "Station master says we'll have to be flagged through." "Oh dear," sighed Rebecca. She knew the passengers wouldn't like that. As her driver got in the cab and took her to the platform, she looked back at her new friend. "Nice meeting you, Ryan. Goodbye." "Nice meeting you too," he replied. "Till we meet again." The next day, the signals had been fixed, and Rebecca's schedule was back to normal. She went to fill up on coal and water before her next train, but as she was waiting, she heard Ryan's whistle again. Just like the day before, he pulled into the yard with the goods train. "Oh, hello, Ryan," smiled Rebecca. "You're a bit early, aren't you?" "Only by a few minutes," replied Ryan cheerily. "Besides, this means we can have a quick chat before you have to leave with your train." Rebecca smiled. "Do you have any stories from your branch line? It seems everyone on this island has at least one." "Let's see. Oh, there was the time when Daisy had to take some entertainers to Harwick," said Ryan. He quickly recounted the story to Rebecca, who started laughing before he'd even finished. "Fancy that, Daisy getting all excited over a children's show, and a puppet show, no less." "Certainly did serve her right for calling me a dirty steamy," joked Ryan. "Well, I think you're quite a wonderful steamy to be able to work just as hard as Daisy and get in barely any trouble," said Rebecca cheerily. Ryan blushed. "Thank you, Rebecca, but I've had my share of trouble." "Have you? Do tell," she urged. But before Ryan could respond, Rebecca's driver called out to her. "Time to go, Rebecca." "Oh," she sighed. Now, Ryan certainly isn't a conceited engine, but secretly he was a little glad he wouldn't have to tell Rebecca about his own mishaps. At least, not yet. Still, he saw her face fall and decided to comfort his friend. "Never mind, Rebecca," he soothed. "I'll tell you my story tomorrow. You wouldn't want to keep your passengers waiting." "Suppose you're right," smiled Rebecca. "See you tomorrow, Ryan." "Cheerio," he replied, and both engines went back to work. For the rest of the week, Ryan would always try and arrive as early as possible to be sure he and Rebecca could share a quick chat before she had to leave with her commuter train. At times, Rebecca would try and stay as long as possible to keep talking with Ryan, but her driver wouldn't allow it, always bringing up the fat controller and how he would most certainly not approve of her keeping her passengers waiting. Regardless, both engines found they rather enjoyed each other's company. Ryan found he quite appreciated Rebecca's constant optimism and positivity, and Rebecca found she admired Ryan's desire to help wherever he could. By the end of the week, the two of them had become very close friends. A few weeks later, Ryan arrived at Knapford Yard like usual. As he shunted his trucks into a siding, he noticed that Rebecca was nowhere to be seen. She must have had to leave early today, he said to himself, and thought nothing of it. But the next day, Rebecca still wasn't in the yard when Ryan arrived. That's odd, he pondered, just as Henry pulled into Rebecca's usual platform. "Oh, Henry," called Ryan, "where's Rebecca?" "She's been having a terrible case of boiler ache these past few days," explained Henry. "She's been taken to the works to get better, but she should be back to work in no time." "That's good," replied Ryan. "Wouldn't want her to be in there forever." Henry chuckled and headed off with Rebecca's train, leaving Ryan feeling somewhat anxious, but hopeful all the same. But Rebecca still wasn't in the yard the following day, and Ryan was quite worried when he saw James backing down on Rebecca's commuter train. "James," asked Ryan, "why isn't Rebecca pulling her train?" "Haven't you heard?" replied James, sounding somewhat concerned. "Her boiler aches worse than anyone's expected. She'll be at the works for a lot longer until they can figure out what the problem is." James solemnly puffed away, leaving behind a very distraught and distressed Ryan. The next day, after asking permission to do so, Ryan took a special goods train down to Crovan's Gate. After shunting his trucks into a siding, he went to see how Rebecca was doing. He soon found her in the back of the works. "Hello, Rebecca," said Ryan, trying not to look too worried. Rebecca's face lit up upon seeing her friend, but she still looked rather wary. "Hi, Ryan! Fancy seeing you here. How are you?" Ryan was a little surprised. "I'm fine, but what about you? Everyone thought you'd be fixed by now. It must be quite bad if you're still here." "Oh, it's not that bad," said Rebecca, forcing a smile. "I heard the workmen say there's something wrong with my boiler, like there's a crack in it or something." "That's a shame," sympathized Ryan. Although he was very concerned, he did his best to sound as comforting as possible. "Can't they fix whatever it is? I'm sure the workmen here can repair anything that's broken. After all, this is the first time it's come up." "Well," Rebecca's face fell. "Some things felt off for a while, but I didn't want to bother anyone. I didn't think it was anything to worry about, but now they're saying that I'll probably need a new boiler." She paused, as if speaking required a great deal of energy from her. "But I overheard the fat controller telling the manager that he doesn't have it in the budget to get me a new boiler right now. So I guess that means I'll be stuck here for a while. It's okay, though. Like I said, it's not that bad." "I'm really sorry, Ryan. I can't keep talking. It's too painful. I'm sorry." Ryan felt helpless. He hadn't known Rebecca for very long, but he knew she was not at all pessimistic and rarely ever complained. He couldn't imagine the pain she must be in to emit a cry like that. Devastated, he left without another word. Later, Ryan was waiting to depart from Knapford Yard with the goods train when Edward arrived to fill up on water. Ryan was still feeling very depressed from earlier, so it was no surprise that Edward quickly realized how upset he was. "Hello, Ryan. What's the matter?" "Oh, hi, Edward," came the dreary reply. "I don't suppose you've heard what's happened with Rebecca?" "Indeed I have," said Edward solemnly. "It's a shame, really. No engine deserves to be in pain like that, and for so long." Ryan sighed. "I just wish there was some way I could help." "I'm sorry, Ryan," replied Edward sadly, "but the fat controller can't just make money up here. I don't think anyone would be willing to cover the entire cost of a new boiler for him. Ryan was about to reply, but halted as an idea came to him. Wait, what if more than one person could get Rebecca her new boiler? Ryan excitedly explained his plan to Edward. When he finished, the old engine was smiling proudly. "That's an excellent idea, Ryan," he beamed. "I'll ask the station master at Wellsworth as soon as I can. I'm proud of you." As Edward left to collect his passengers, Ryan headed off in the opposite direction, his face shining with excitement. Later, Ryan told his plan to the Harwick station master, who quickly agreed to take part. He also brought up his plan to Duck and Oliver, who agreed to help spread the word. "It just wouldn't be right to sit on our wheels while Rebecca's in pain," sympathized Duck. "Indeed," added Oliver. "She's too kind and positive of an engine not to have my support." That night, Ryan could hardly sleep. He kept chattering on to Daisy about his plan. "This is so exciting! I can't believe how many people and engines want to help." "Well, why wouldn't they? It's for a good cause," smiled Daisy. Even though Daisy didn't like being kept awake, she couldn't help but be supportive of Ryan. "It's very kind of you to do something like this." "Oh, well, I can't just wait and expect the problem to solve itself," replied Ryan. "Just imagining the pain she's going through right now just makes me so upset. I'd do anything to make her feel better." "Well, just know that everyone's supporting you in this," said Daisy kindly. "In fact, you can expect my crew to be the first to help in the morning." "Thanks, Daisy." And with that, Ryan drifted off to sleep. By the end of the week, word of Ryan's plan had spread all around the island, and everyone who heard of it agreed to help. Every station master had a collection jar placed somewhere in their stations, with a sign underneath that read, "Boiler Fund. Rebecca is very poorly and needs to be mended. Any amount helps." Across the whole island, passengers, railway workers, and even the engine's crews would drop a few coins and notes into the jars, in the hopes that it would help Rebecca get her new boiler as soon as possible. The Flying Scotsman also agreed to place a jar at Barrow, and even Diesel and his crew pitched in. As the days went by, the amount raised grew and grew. It took a little while, but finally, about a month later, "I'm going to get my new boiler?" "Indeed you are," the Fat Controller told Rebecca. "Some very kind people have helped raise money for you, so you'll only be in here for a few weeks longer at the most." Rebecca didn't know what to say. "But, sir, whose idea was this?" she asked, barely able to compose herself. "Why, it was Ryan's," replied the Fat Controller. "He asked all the engines on the island to help spread the word, and it looks like it, paid off." He took a moment to chuckle at his own wit. "Anyway, you won't have to be in pain for much longer." The Fat Controller walked away, and as he did so, he thought he could hear Rebecca crying tears of joy. At last, after 3 more weeks, Rebecca was fully repaired and ready to leave the works. As a way of easing her back into working, the Fat Controller had prepared a train for her to take from Crovan's Gate to Knapford. But Rebecca found it hardly necessary. She was soon thundering down the line, feeling better than she had in years. As Rebecca approached Knapford, a big surprise awaited her. A large group of engines were waiting in the station, and they all blew their whistles with joy when she came into view. And there, in front of the crowd of engines, was Ryan, smiling buffer to buffer. Once again, Rebecca was so happy that she didn't know what to say. She didn't really need to say anything, though, as her cheerful smile let everyone know that she was finally okay. Later, Ryan was resting in Knapford Yard when he heard a familiar whistle in the distance. He grinned as Rebecca arrived a short while later. "Glad to see you back on your wheels," he smiled. "How are you feeling?" "Like a new engine," she replied. She paused, this time not out of pain, but to gather her thoughts. "I can't think of anything to say except thank you," she said quietly, a small tear in her eye. "This really does mean the world to me." "I'm glad I could help," replied Ryan humbly. "Just promise me you'll never get that sick again." Both engines laughed, and soon it was time for Rebecca to leave. And although she was upset, she couldn't help but keep smiling. "I guess I'll see you tomorrow, Ryan." "Cheerio!" As Rebecca set off with her commuter train, she couldn't stop thinking about how incredibly grateful she was to have a whole island of friends who not only enjoyed her company, but also cared about her well-being and would do anything for her to get better. And to her, that was perhaps the greatest thing she could ever ask for.